Well, hey friends, this is a reading about your birthright. It's a pick a card reading, which means there will be timestamps and you can find them below this video. The point of this reading is there's once a year where Jupiter and the Sun meet. They're meeting this month in Aries, and it is considered the luckiest day of the year. And so we're going to look into what is yours, and we'll ask some questions. But first of all, you're going to pick one of 4 decks. And so I'm going to pull a card. Will give us an overall feeling. I'm not going to say anything about the card, but if it resonates with you, if you feel it, you can feel that in your gut. Pick that one, click over to that reading, and we'll see what happens when we read the cards over there. Okay, so first deck is going to be the Light Seers, and on the bottom of the Light Seers we see the Page of Wands, and we're going to have the overall card of the 3 of Wands. So that is number 1. Number 2 is the 4 Hoxa deck, and that is on the bottom, a 5 of Air. You get an Ace of Swords. That's number 2, Ace of Swords. Number 3 is this little animal deck. We get a 6 of Wands on the bottom. And the overall card is the Queen of Swords. It's very hard not to tell you what the cards are about yet. Okay, and finally, number 4 on the bottom is the High Priestess, Modern Witch Tarot, and the card overall is a 3 of Swords. Okay, so I'm going to timestamp these and we'll get into the readings. I'm going to give myself few minutes or a few seconds here before we get into our first reading. Well, hi, you're here for number 1, which is a 3 of Wands, and we're going to be working with the Light Seers deck. So the 3 of Wands is about waiting for something that you manifested to come in. And we can see each wand representing fire, your will, and there's this kind of empty, expectant space, something coming closer and closer. Okay, so we're going to shuffle this deck. We had the Page of Wands on the bottom, but she's going in the mix here. High Priestess on the split. So what we're going to ask here, so your birthright is something that you manifested. You know what it is. The High Priestess tells me you already know what this is. Somewhere in your gut, you know. And we're going to ask 4 questions. All right, the first question is what you have learned already in your life about this, your birthright. Number 2, we're going to ask what you've forgotten that you need to remember. Number 3, we're going to ask what's been hidden from you that the tarot wants you to know. And 4th, we're going to ask about your path to this birthright. And what we understand about this particular conjunction of Jupiter and the Sun is that you can't just wait for it to come in. You're going to need to do something. So let's see what we learn here in this reading. All right, number 1, what you have learned. You have learned about luck, the wheel. You have learned to wait on divine timing. This is you waiting. That's very much the same energy of this, like you've manifested, you let it go, and now you just wait for the fates to turn in your favor. That's awesome. Good thing to learn. Secondly, what you have forgotten and you need to remember. It's a repetition. It's a Three of Wands. So this is the same card, the Three of Wands. Here we have the little surfer girl. She's waiting for that wave, looking out on that pink dawn sunset. So you've forgotten this, and you need to remember that. There's something here about the larger forces of nature. You understand luck and fortune, but there's something here that you've forgotten about the ocean. It's something about the largeness of the ocean, the tides, the moon. That's the thing that you've forgotten, that you knew when you were a kid and you've forgotten it. Okay? What's hidden that the tarot wants you to know? There is some kind of a dilemma here. So this is your mind. This blindfold represents you not taking input from other people. And you have two truths that are in competition. Okay, so this is something that you're not aware of. So in some way, like, you know what this is, your birthright. You know what, you manifested it, you forgot about it. You forgot something about the larger forces of the planet, the tides, the ocean. But you do know something about the wheel. And so I feel like there might be a tension here between that wheel thing that you learned and the wands thing that you've forgotten. And that tension is in some way in play here. But let's pull one more card. What is your path forward? A Four of Pentacles. This is about valuing what you already have. It's also about earth. The Pentacles being a sign of earth. So there's something about your birthright here that is, what it's about is you made a wish at some point. But you made this wish and you're just waiting for it to come in, but you forgot something when you made that wish. And what you forgot is intention with your birthright. And what you want to do on your way to receiving this, because it is yours, is you want to value what you have. Notice what you have. I think this is about developing an attitude of gratitude. Now, the Four of Pentacles is sometimes a very controlling energy. This particular Four of Pentacles comes in as the pride of a person who worked really hard for what she has and is just valuing that. So it doesn't, I always admire this particular woman in the Four of Pentacles. But there is something that you're confused about. Okay, let's see. Looking on the bottom here, there's one card, which is a Six of Pentacles. So this is about receiving the generosity of the planet, of Earth. It's also about giving and receiving. So the lesson here is that there's plenty for you, and it's coming in, and we see that here. And you know that, in a way, what I'm seeing is that there's you understand your birthright through a lens of money, through kind of typical ideas of wealth. And it's clear that is coming in for you. But there is tension in that gift that you need to remember. That there is something greater than that as well, that you also manifested when you were a child, when you were young, and you've forgotten what that was, and that's also coming. So there's two gifts here. You have two birthrights, and they are in tension in some way. And so what the message here is, for those of you that came to number one, the message here is to know what your value, where your values lie. You have to choose between this more financial, adult, practical pentacles kind of birthright, and this more magical, earthy, ethereal. It's bigger than this sort of wealth. There's some kind of wealth and luck, fortune is coming in. But then there's another thing that you wanted when you were a kid, and it's like the freedom to go surfing. And these are intention. And so what your path is you need to know where your values lie. So you have to choose. And in some way, like if you choose the dream of your youth, you value what you have here. You know, you have enough. You worked hard for it. You're proud of what you worked for. But this, like, just simply like, if your vision is to be rich, like that's a lot of work and you never get to go surfing. But if your vision is to be free and play and love your planet, whatever, go to see every sunrise and every sunset at the ocean, you may need to give up wealth in the pursuit of wealth. So that's a very interesting reading about your birthright. You have two. Okay? All right. So I'm going to move on to the next reading. And that is going to start at 11. All right, you are here for reading number 2, which is under the Ace of Swords, a truth, an insight. This is your birthright. On the bottom of the deck, we saw a 5 of air, but we'll mix her in and see what happens when we shuffle the cards. Okay. Some kind of truth or insight, or the pursuit of it. I really see it being handed to you. Okay, we're going to split the deck, and then we're going to ask 4 questions. The first one, what have you learned? You have learned the lesson of the Hanged Man. That's very much about truth. It's very much about perspective. That you will be held hanging upside down by some divine force until you see things in a new way. So that's great. That's a really important lesson. You kind of are stuck there until you learn that. So if you felt that in your life recently, or over the long course of your life, or in some way, you have learned, you have a capacity to look at something from the absolute opposite direction in order to perceive truth, right? So that's a great skill. Now, what you've forgotten that you need to remember is a lesson of the 9 of air. So this is more swords energy. This is a little fairy who has insomnia. Her mind is full of thoughts, okay? So there's something about the lesson of the 9 of air here. It's coming in for me as actually a dream. It's like you had a dream when you were a kid, when you were young. You've forgotten this dream. And in the dream, you realize something. You can see in her face, right? Like the card's really about being miserable because there's all of these thoughts. But I feel like there's one particular revelation that this fairy's like, oh God, that's the truth. You know, in an Ace of Swords, the truth is not always comfortable. But let's see, maybe you're ready for that truth now. Okay. So now we're asking what is hidden from you that the tarot wants you to know. We get the moon. This is like psychic powers. It's intuition. It's the depths of there is something in your darkness, in the dark night of the soul, that it's very much like what this fairy knows, right? So that's coming through. This card's complicated. We see, the fairy, the maiden fairy, and she's sitting here looking down into the water. And in some way, we can almost see like another world looking down. There's a connection, a portal between, this seems like more like the real world that we live in, and then this is a magical world. And then we see flying. There's a lot of action going on in here. Shadow work is what a moon card is about. So there's something in your shadow realms that you want to see. And then what you already know, because you have the lesson of the hangman, is what you've already learned, is that even if it feels like a darkness or a flaw or something that maybe even is a source of shame or something, the truth is that you can always use your skill of being able to see that in a different way so that it becomes a gift and not a burden or not something to be ashamed of. Ultimately, shame is always a lie. A shame is just an idea that there's something wrong with you. The fact is, there's nothing wrong with you. You're absolutely perfect. You were born perfect, and everything that you've done can be fixed. It can be amended, right? You can't undo it, but you can use it in a way that makes the world better, or that helps somebody or something like that. And so it's worthwhile looking into your dark places. You're already haunted by them here, and you were when you were a kid. In a way, as a child or as a young person, you knew something that was maybe a little bit too grown up for you to know. And now that has become hidden, but it is here also. It perhaps is where your truth lies, is inside of yourself and the thing you pushed away. You do have the ability to revise how you look at that and see it's not bad, it's a gift. Okay, so what is your path towards receiving this gift? You get victory. The 6 of fire. Beautiful, beautiful, out in the open, seen by others, inspiring to others. Very powerful. So when you get to a 6 of fire, it's very public. It's very visible. And what you get is recognition for the value of your ideas, the value of your life. So it seems to me that you have a truth that is your birthright. And then when you go and get this truth, you may have to go into darkness, into places you fear to tread. But when you grab this truth and you stand forward with it in the light of the world, that people will see that this is a gift and that you are a gift because you went through that darkness. And that is a beautiful birthright, my friend. On the bottom of the deck, we have many things. Very nice, very powerful underlying energies. So let's see. We have a 2 of earth, a beautiful, balancing, grounded energy. Capable, ambidextrous. I think that's like your hanged man ability to see things. Then we get a 9 of waters. This is an emotional capacity for wish fulfillment, for joy. That's very beautiful too. We see the world, an ending and a beginning, a celebration of a life. And we see the magician, the very powerful capacity to use all your tools, even your darkness, even this difficult truth, this sword, to make the world that you want to live in. Look, you can make this bull burst through the snow, the early spring, and bloom, right? You have the wand, you have the pentacle, the sword, the cup, all of the tools. That's what the wizard has. And so this is a very powerful birthright that you have. It's very beautiful to other people. It is celebrated. And yet it comes from your very darkness and the place that you have not wanted to look. Wow. I understand the dread, and I can tell you that when you look and you take hold of it and you speak of it without shame, because there's no shame in what you've lived through, the people see this gift and they recognize it, and that's why you get victory. This is fantastic. Go for it, my friend. Okay. I'm going to now move into the next reading, so I'll see you later. Okay. Well, hi, you're here for the third reading, which was under the Queen of Swords. She has clarity. She has the truth. She uses it. She's wise in the way that she uses it. She will give you the power to arrange your life in the way that is healthiest for you. But let's see what else is going on here when we look at this deck. So underlying card here was a Six of Wands, which is about victory, about recognition. It's a very wonderful place to be in your life. But we're going to shuffle that in. We're going to cut the deck, and then we're going to ask our 4 questions. See what we see. Okay, splitter. Or cut the deck. All right, the first question is, what have you learned? Wow, the Queen of Wands. Beautiful, powerful. You have learned about how magnificent and sexy you are. You have learned about the law of attraction. She's the queen of the law of attraction. She knows that what she focuses on is what happens, right? So if you focus on the positive, your aspirations, the positive manifestations, that's what you get. But if you focus on the negative, careful, because that can grow. So this is about perspective. It is a very, very powerful recognition of how much agency you have to define your life, right? So we have 2 queens here. Very, very beautiful. Now you've forgotten something and you need to remember it. Something perhaps you knew when you were a child. Yes, it's a Page of Cups. There is a lightheartedness here of the otter that you have forgotten and you need to remember. It's just a light, flirty energy, an open-heartedness. There's something very serious about you, my friend. And even this Page of Cups, this young you, is serious. But the Page of Cups does know how to play. So that's something here. Like, I see this, what you've learned, like Queen of Wands, she can be very magical and playful, but she seems very serious here in this particular deck. Okay, and the Queen of Swords, she is definitely all business. There's something that I learned about the Queen of Swords, and I've always talked about this, which is the swords are the suit of the mind. They're also blood, and blood is not cold, but the Queen of Swords often gets read as cold. And so there is this warmth in the Queen of Swords that goes to her being of a nurturing and supportive quality, representing the divine feminine is how we often talk about this. So that's what I think is happening here, is that there's this truth and this access to clarity and power and setting your intention towards in the direction that you want to live. But there is something that you've forgotten that you want to remember about your heart, about your sweetness, okay? What the tarot says is hidden from you that you want to remember. Is that you need to know, is the Hangman. So this is about your powerlessness to, there is a limit to your power in the Hangman, and that there's a divine force, and it works in your own good. And it works until you get clarity, right? You actually have to hang upside down and see things in a way that you've never seen them before, so that you get a new perspective. And then you get freed, right? So that's what is hidden from you. So if you're sitting in this little reading and you're thinking, well, I don't feel powerful, like I feel stuck. This has to do, it's for your own good that you're stuck. And I think the reason that you're stuck is that the Queen of the Law of Attraction, right? Her internal idea of what is positive is in conflict with what she knew as a child, right? So like you might have like, because I get this seriousness about you, like you may not give yourself permission to be silly, to be light, to do something that doesn't produce like measurable outcomes and things like that. And so you need to actually perhaps relook at what you think is positive before you act, before you take decisive action. Okay? A path forward for you in receiving this birthright is the Hermit, the card of Virgo. This is also a card about going inward and looking into your insights. Looking over, often the Hermit looks backwards over their life and looks at what they've learned through experience. And that's what I think you need to do in order to remember what you forgot, which is how to be a Page of Cups, which is a very young, light, flirty energy. It's playful like an otter. It's in the emotional realm instead of the exertion of will and mind. And so this is also, the Hermit is in the water here, represented by an octopus in this case. So the octopus is of water. And so it brings in, again, a reminder to check in with your emotions. And until you do this work, you will be stuck. And you are stuck for your own good. These readings about your birthright, they're about going and getting your birthright. Because it's not going to come if you just sit there and do nothing. And so you take the lesson of the Hermit, you go alone, and you look inward. And you look at what you have forgotten, and you look at what you've learned. Because they're both important here. And it has to do with how you look at things and what you value here. And don't forget your little Page of Cups. Joyful, playful side. What's going on underneath here? More joyful, playful. Yes. Oh, interesting. So there's more otters, more play. This is about being with friends, with your heart people. And then there's also, you learned how to do this. There's your mate. There's a partner, your counterpart is here. And that's why you actually do need to learn how to play with others, I think. There's someone here for you. And when the Queen of Swords acts, like she cuts out those that don't belong, but there's also the knowing and the clarity of who does belong, of who to let in and who to take into your heart. And I think that this is the lesson for you, that your birthright is other connections, other heart people. And to have that, you must envision it. And so that's the perspective shift that you need to have. You need to see yourself having clarity enough to reverse the Queen of Wands, who tends to be remembered as someone that cuts people out, and see that she also keeps people and collects the ones that are good for her. You only cut out the people that aren't good for you, or the activities or the aspirations. There's something like that. It doesn't have to be a person. But I see friends and I see a soulmate connection here. So don't prevent yourself from having that vision. That's your message. All right. Happy birthright. Okay. I'm going to move on to the next reading. So click ahead. Well, hello, you are here, and if you know anything about tarot, you probably didn't want this card. So, the Three of Swords, I don't know, does it look painful? It's your mind and your heart being at odds. It's obsession. So how is this your birthright? And why would you want this, right? It is a heart cut through with the truth. I feel like the birthright is alignment of your heart and your mind. And that's like a message I get a lot. And in fact, like I'd say a lot of these readings in some form or another are getting this. But let's look at this more closely by pulling some other cards and asking about the details of this. My dog's having a little breakfast, so you might hear that over there. Okay, let's just shuffle some more. So what does the modern witch want to tell those with the birthright of the Three of Swords? The birthright of the person of the Three of Swords is you've had your heart broken. And there is a gift that comes from remedying that. So let's find out. Here's what you have learned. Wow. You have learned authenticity and joy. This is actually the happiest card in the tarot. And so what I'm called to think of is this idea that our suffering is what shows us our joy. And so that you have this capacity to move from absolute heart wreck into absolute joy. You're an optimistic person. And even though you might ruminate and obsess over the heartbreak, you ultimately end up learning who you are and how to be you, how to be free, and how to look towards the future, or even to recognize in the present what is beautiful and right and possible. That's an amazing skill to have right here with this Three of Swords. Okay, but you've forgotten something, and you need to remember that. So that is the Ten of Pentacles. So this is about security and abundance. It's also a family in this situation. So it seems like wow, there's even dogs. There's an elder. There's, it's 3 generations plus dogs. And then kind of this modern house and all these pentacles. So this is something that you forgot that you need to remember. It's almost like your heartbreak is a family heartbreak. And that you've learned how to be yourself and to be bright and beautiful and positive. But there is this lost connection to family, to kinship with others. Okay, what the tarot says is hidden that you need to know. The King of Wands. This is the one who is the leader of their own life, a very creative, alpha leader energy. So this is something that's hidden. And this one is looking at this family too. We can see them on the table like this, right? We can see you looking at this, and they're looking at this. They're kind of having a kind of intense gaze at that, I'd say. It's like, I would say this story is that your family got broken. In a way, like this would be a story about like a coming out story. That you came out as you, and the family rejected you. And you said, oh well, and you took off, and you went, and you had a beautiful life, and you've learned how to do that. But now there's somebody else, and I feel like they might be a member of your family, like a parental figure. The King of Wands is like even like a father figure. And they're looking at that same moment that where you broke from your family, where you lost this connection. And they're looking at that. And I think like they're the ones who are feeling this too. They're also feeling divided of heart and mind, right? Like their mind might be telling them, that's wrong. You shouldn't, we did the right thing by cutting out our child. But their heart loves you. And it hurts every time they think about how you're a sinner or something like that. I don't know. This is just a possible story. So there's a break in your family, and you've gone on and lived a beautiful life and been yourself. And that's the right move. You found happiness without that family. But there is somebody in that family who is regretting and suffering and ruminating over that break with you. So the path forward, what is the path forward? So we get a 4 of Cups, all right? So even though you're very happy, like you've learned how to be joyful and authentic, there is still something here about the past where this is, you're focusing on what wasn't given to you emotionally, and you're not able to see a gift coming in, right? So the lesson of this is shift your perspective. Like you did so great on every other area of your life, but like if a family member shows up to you and says, I am offering you amends, I regret, I'm so sorry, please have my heart and my love, and let's repair this, and you're like, nope. The lesson here to receive this birthright, my friend, is to say yes. Turn and take that chance. Because if you stay in the 4 of Cups, your life's going to be small. 4, it will actually, one thing I notice here is you're very young. You have this inner child quality, and that's beautiful. I love it. This is the happiest card in the tarot for a reason. But there also is a possibility that you could stay stuck, stunted, and also alone in your little world that you created, right? Because this knowing how to have and be a part of a family, it's not just about the past family that you lost. It's also about the future and the potential to forge new forms of kinship going forward. So the gift of your broken heart, this is your, yes, okay. So we see the story here, right? We see you left. You left. This was a place of discontent. 8 of Cups, there's 1 cup missing. You can see it right there. It's missing. And you walked away and you said, I'm going towards this. I don't care what you say. I'm going to make a new life for myself. And now there is a gift coming in. The 6 of Pentacles. Somebody is coming in and they want to give you something. And the challenge of the 6 of Pentacles is it's not there. It requires one to receive the generosity of the other. Okay? So you actually, your birthright is something that's going to be offered to you from somebody that you don't want it from. Not because you don't love them, but because you've forgotten your love for them in order to thrive and be yourself. And so the advice is take the gift, take the chance. They mean it. They have changed. This process where they loved you, but their mind cut them off from you, that broke both of your hearts, not just yours. Their heart is broken too. And so your birthright is a broken heart. And that, my friend, is the end of this pick a card reading. Let me know what you think. Have a beautiful day.